Hello everyone, welcome to the ServiceNow Star YouTube channel. My name is Mohammed Rashid Kamal here from the ServiceNow Star studio, Washington DC. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Today our topic is the regulatory change management. A number of community members have asked us to cover this topic for a while, and we are here today to discuss it. We'll tell you all the ins and outs of the regulatory change management. What are the things you need to do with the regulatory change management? And this in today's world, we are living with more than 800 or more several different kinds of regulatory change that are around the world. So these different regulatory change, especially on different sector. When it comes to the government sector, there are the NIST and so many. There's FedRAMP. Those all kinds of different regulatory changes. And not only that, if you go to the payment, which is the PCI, the Payment Card Information System, there is also different regulatories, and all those regulatory put you in different risk as well, because some of them are really come with a high price of penalty if you're not complying with them. So now we will talk, by the way, we're just going to cover how this regulatory change management will work, not only just here in ServiceNow, but also if you want to try to keep up with the regulatory change. Those are coming up in different time. We'll take as an example of the NIST here, NIST 853 RAF 5. We are now on RAF 5, which is revision 5. Take a look at that. So this revision 5 comes with different security and privacy controls for your information system, right? So when this revision 5 comes, there was revision 4, and there are controls, control objectives and risk statements that has been changed, and there has been some as well that are been the same, but there are new control objective could be added, citations could be added, all new, or there could be also the older one that can be changed with different context, because the risk is really increasing. So now if you are like this, when it comes to the NIST 800, the NIST 800 here 53 revision 5, the security, this is more of the computer security resource center. So in the NIST here, if you are doing this kind of regulatory change, you need to abide with this NIST. You have to come here and check. For example, there is a new control catalog spreadsheet. So this new control catalog spreadsheet that contain the entire security and privacy control catalog in that spreadsheet. So you have to come here. Manually, it can be like another full-time job for your employees. So to come here and check if there's any new controls being added, control objectives new being added, or if there is any modification as well. So you get to take a look at the news here, the blogs. Okay, there are the documentation started here. So it's really big. It's your job to come here and check. But with the ServiceNow regulatory change management, there are all this pain, all this hard work of manually reviewing all those different new release can be highly reduced, right? So with this regulatory change management, we have the reason, or what are the change management. You see, with the regulatory change management, the number of different regulatory. Now here we take a look at the NIST, right? This NIST, there is RAF 4, RAF 5, now it's here, and then revision 6 could also come. When revision 6 come, there are a new control objectives will be added, and the existing could be also modified. Now you have to comply with those as well. There's a time, there is a risk, and also there is also for not being compliant, or if you become non-compliant, there's a huge penalty. And if you take a look at the PCI, which is the Payment Card Information, some studies suggest that there are 342 billion in banking fine because of not being compliant. So it's really important. So management of this regulatory or the policy and the procedural change that apply to your organization, they need to be you need to take a look at all of that. This is by itself another important area. So as an example, you talked about the NIST. There is a PCI. There are several other regulatories that you need to comply with. All right, so this overwhelming number of regulations, when they come with those different kinds of regulations, and not only that, their page or the number of pages they will come up with also very a lot. So you gotta avoid the manual process of reviewing them, and you gotta do this kind of automated. This manual process is really time consuming. Now, when there is this kind of regulatory change, what are the processes you need to follow? And of course, there is a compliance source monitoring. You gotta monitor those sources. Now, let's take a look at the NIST 800 here. The NIST 800, which is the security privacy control. Now, there is we are on revision 5, which is just 09/23/2020. Now this is released in 2020. Still we are using this revision 5, which was released in 2020. Now whenever a new comes, which is now revision 6, a new will be added here in this. Okay, this revision 5, revision 6 will be added, so you have to pay attention and see if there is a new releases come. That new release will come with a different control objectives and risk statements and all of that. So that is up to you. Here you take a look at here, RAF 4 to RAF 5. So mapping of the Appendix J privacy control revision 4 to revision 5. All right, so they come with some additional notes and so on. They come in different format. There is Excel, there's a Word as well, and there is an OSCL version of these 800, the 853 RAF 5 as well. All right, so you can take a look at it, the abstract. All right, this publication provide a catalog of security and privacy control for your information system in organization to protect organizational operations and assets, your individuals, your organizations, and so on. Perfect. So that is where it is. You need to come and take a look at here. Now, how can you? The first thing is your source. What are your source? Take a look at the PCI, for example, the payment card information system. That's another source. The NIST is another source, and there is FedRAMP as well. That's going to be another source as well. So you gotta monitor those regulatory change. You need to integrate with those regulatory intelligence providers. Now you will also need to create a standardized regulatory taxonomy. All right, we'll take a look at that, how all those could happen automatically here in ServiceNow, but we'll take a look. We're gonna show you here. So how can you create a standardized regulatory taxonomy? Those are the steps that you need to follow when you are checking those compliance source monitoring. And the other is applicability assessment. You need to take a look at if that's going to be applicable to you. Now you need to assess those applicability of regulatory events and record reasons for non-applicability. Let's say if you have those control objectives and you feel they are not applicable to you, which means they're not applicable because all control objectives may not be applicable to you, gotta be reasonable. Okay, reasonably justify those. Then from there you have to go ahead and assessment impact. So this assessment impact help you to send the impact assessment to your owners, and also will help you to track several impact of your regulatory event. What impact you're going to have if you go ahead and implement, or if you're not going to unimplement them. All right, the other important is change notification, or just change identification. So determining what regulatory items are impacted and identifying your change needed for your compliance. And from there you will go ahead and do your change implementation. You have to implement your change, so you have to create your task for implementing your change track progress, and also record evidence as well. And finally you have to communicate those changes as well. So you have a report on your regulatory change, monitoring your state, and also progress of your assigned task. So this is the payment card management process flow. So his example is, which should be different from the NIST 800, but this is for the process flow of the RCM. All right, so regulatory change management process flow, and these are the steps you gotta follow. And now this could be, a little bit different from PCI to NIST to FedRAMP and so on, but in general, the overall way of you can use it, this is how you go ahead and implement it. Now within the ServiceNow, we have the ServiceNow GRC that help us to integrate with this RSS feed. Now if I take you to the NIST 800, you might already pay attention that we have RSS feed. Let's go ahead and find that. Yeah, so there is an RSS feed, and these security control objectives, they will come with another RSS feed. So here you got the control catalog spreadsheet in Word and also in Excel. Not only that, there is also RSS feed. So ServiceNow will go ahead and integrate through that RSS feed. All right, let's see. There is old school version. There are different versions, by the way. There's old school version currently available in JSON, XML, and YAML. So what do ServiceNow is, it's gonna go ahead and integrate with NIST 800 through RSS feed, and then there's also PCI and all of that. So you can go ahead and integrate with those directly to get that data. So here you have your external feed. So one of our external feed here is the NIST 800. So we got our NIST 800, which is an official website of the United States government. All right, so you got that one here in your external feed, and then put your PCI here as well, and all of that's integrated. They feed the provider connection. We get the provider connection. So the configuration required for each external feed will depending on what type of external source you have. Is it NIST? Is it PCI? And so on. Depending on that, you go ahead and integrate, and then from there you feed your registry. At the ServiceNow, there is a registry table, feed registry. We'll take a look at that as well. Then that's going to feed to a transformation map. So within ServiceNow, transformation will happen, and that transformation will bring us an internal taxonomy. So it will automatically create internal taxonomy. You see that there is a database. It's going to go ahead and do that internal taxonomy that require a configuration, and eventually will have will feed to the regulatory feed. Okay, that's in short how it's going to happen. Now within the ServiceNow, there are a number of processing RSS feed. Now, is the feed applicable? The first thing is you need to ask, is the feed applicable? And if it's applicable, what happens next, right? So you have your RCM manager, which is regulatory change manager. That's the persona that you have at the top that will go ahead and assign this incoming regulatory feed record to your RSM coordinator. You'll have your coordinator, which is regulatory change management coordinator. That coordinator have to review those, and then for us to come as a new, and they go ahead and analyze those RCM, and the coordinator will analyze those new feed and take a look at those. And then there could be some non-applicable control objectives. So you gotta have a reason for that one, why they are not applicable for us, because we're not on the cloud, because we have our own server. You see, different kinds of like that. All right, and then from there you need impact assessments. You gotta do your impact assessment. What impact, implementing and not implementing these controls, what is the problem will have? So you have to do your impact assessments. Now, two things gonna happen here. If you do your impact assessments, all right, your impact assessment, and then if those are good, you can go ahead and do assign to your entity owner completes the impact assessment. So you got your entity owners, they're gonna go ahead and complete the impact assessment. And at time you might have those when you do your impact assessment, so you'll go ahead and you'll have a result, and those results back to review. You need to be sent to review. And is the feed applicable? Again, there is a decision. You gotta decide, is the feed applicable? Okay, You have your entity owner, they will assess them, and if they decide if these fees are applicable, they need to go through a change task that's automatically generated. Those change tasks will automatically generated, and then from there it will assign a change task to your RCM coordinator, back to the RCM coordinator, and that RCM coordinator, our regulatory change management coordinator, will respond to those change tasks, and they will create action task. Got it? That action task. Now this action task eventually will come to either a compliance team or a risk team, right? The one goes to the compliance team, they complete a class and action task, and the risk team will complete a class and action task, and those will go ahead and close the change task eventually, right? So these are the steps. And now you have those roles or personas. You have the change manager, change user, and also entity owner. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here, ServiceNow Star YouTube channel. We are here live from the Washington DC. Now it's time to demo. Let's go ahead and take a look at within the ServiceNow environment. I'm going to go ahead and show you how we go ahead and install the regulatory change management, and then from there we'll talk few additional things. All right, so here I log to my personal developers. I'm gonna go ahead and write plugins. Okay, it's gonna bring me to the plugins list, and I'll click, and we'll go ahead and search for the regulatory change management. Ladies and gentlemen, let us know where you watching us today. Okay, so here we're gonna write regulatory change management. Okay, all right, regulatory change management. So you got here the regulatory change management. So this is a proactively manage regulatory change to maintain an optimal compliance posture. So think about this. You got you might have a client, right, maybe asking you, hey, should I go ahead and do a regulatory change management, which is a store up in ServiceNow? Can I go ahead and do it? I highly encourage, if you have one or more regulatory change that you need to work on, take a look at the penalty and how frequently you're getting those regulatory change updates, especially if you're getting them very frequently. So you need to have a regulatory change management up and run, so that way you, without worry, you will get those regulatory change automatically fit to your ServiceNow instance using that RSS feed. Now when we go ahead and install, there are some dependency plugins. The first one is the policy and compliance management, which is currently installed in my instance, and it also requires an advanced risk plugin that will also a dependent, so that's going to be installed as well. So these two are the prerequisite plugins or dependency plugins that you need to have in order to have the regulatory change management, and the version is 15. By the way, before we go ahead and click that one, I'm going to go ahead and take you to the store release, and then we can go ahead and take a look at those. Perfect. Let's go ahead and install, because this is going to take some time until it completes. Now here under the store, now regulatory change management. So let's take a look at some of the version here. So the versioning here, it's 15.00, and if you have if you are in Tokyo or later versions like San Diego and Rome, you're good to go to use the regulatory change management. But if not, you should go ahead and upgrade your instance either to Tokyo or directly to Rome. Okay, that's the versioning here, and you'll have some additional some product details here about the regulatory change management. This application provides a streamlined end-to-end process for managing your regulatory change. Earlier I say that you got more than 800 regulatories these days floating around the world. So those regulatory change, because of this integration, it's going to help you to get those any change whenever there's a new regulations come out or any change happen. So it's going to automatically create a new taxonomy for you, and that can be reviewed by your regulatory change coordinator. All right, so you can integrate this different content from various regulatory intelligence that provides and constantly keep an eye on your regulatory horizon. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, it's gonna give you a regulatory eye, because it's gonna be like a full-time job for your employee to go ahead and access their website. There is a blog for them, there's a news, they need to take a look at that. If there is any change, you have to go ahead and implement those. Okay, this is really a robust workflow to assess your applicability and also the impact of regulatory events as well, that map them with your internal GRC objects, and also that can execute the regulatory change. It's really configurable reports. You'll have your configurable reports and dashboards. Take a look at those reports and dashboard with a notification alert that increase the transparency of regulatory compliance across your ecosystem. Now, if you go ahead and take a look at here, this is a regulatory change management dashboard. So you got here how many new regulatory alerts you have, and how many new regulatory change tasks, because these tasks will also be created in. If you have any overdue regulatory change task, you'll have with those red button there, and you have a regulatory alert by states as well, so you have to work on if there is a new impact assessment, if there is an impact assessment already done by your entity owner, and then how many of them are not applicable, because we have to know. And when we say a given control objective or control is not applicable or not applicable, you have to make sure it is accurately identified, because the penalty is really high for not being compliant with those regulatory change. Here is the state. So there's a new, respond, awaiting approval, implementation. Like I say, there's an approval process that's gonna take you there. And let's take a look at if it is already complete. Our plugin, it's almost there. See how many things are loaded. More than 2,232 files are loaded with this just one regulatory change management store app. Ladies and gentlemen, you are following here the ServiceNow store live from the Washington DC. We are talking about today the regulatory change management. It's a demo session. We are covering a demo now. We just started installing the regulatory change management plugin from the ServiceNow store, and also we'll show you some of the future here directly from the instance. Ladies and gentlemen, regulatory change management, it's really important these days because of several different types of regulatories are coming into live or in action. And not only that, these regulatory changes are always changing in scope. Let's take a look at the password requirement, right? Many years ago, the minimum password must be 6 character, 8 character, and then it goes to a complex character, right? Those are regulatories. Now, complex password, and then eventually goes to a 2-factor authentication. That means you'll have your password, and then you need another way of authenticating. So a 2-factor could be, you can use your phone or a PIN or your age, some kind of a 2-factor authentication. And now we are on a multi-factor authentication. That means you have to use at least 2 or more. It's a multi-factor authentication. Not only that, these days you will also use other additional, for example, your fingerprint, right? Which is, it will only open just you, because you can't give or you can't share your fingerprint to someone else, or you might use also a card, and so on. So that's what it is, really, a regulatory change. So those regulatory change, if you're not complying with them, they come with severe penalty. And let me actually show you here with a regulatory change. For example, the PCI, right? The PCI, how much they paid in penalty for not being compliant. They have, on the PCI, they paid 342 billion in banking fine, and also 850 billion erased in profit because of being non-compliant, right? So it's really a high-risk area. If you are working in area where you need to have you need to follow those kind of regulations, so you You gotta be careful there, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's go back to our ServiceNow instance. By now it's all right. It's not yet fully loaded. We got 75 files. We're gonna give it again a few seconds here while we are continue talking about regulatory change management. Now, what are the key features here? So these key features help you to integrate with your regulatory intelligence. It provide RSS feed and use ServiceNow store for integrations. These horizon scanning to proactively manage your change before they are implemented. Ladies and gentlemen, and it also help you easily create and manage your regulatory taxonomy within the ServiceNow. That is agnostic of any regulatory change providers. It helps you to map taxonomy from multiple providers to your internal taxonomy. And also this regulatory change management store app within ServiceNow also perform an impact assessment for you on your regulatory events using your highly configurable impact assessment methodologies and overall impact rating calculation formula. So you got those formula there. It can help you to do an impact assessment for you. And not only that, it helps you to implement your change that have been identified, help you track those implementation progress, help you to track issues if required, and also record the change as an evidence as well for you. And these regulatory change management is going to give you an overview of your regulatory compliance program. It helps you to drill into your details required using a configurable reports and dashboard that always come within ServiceNow. So the reports and dashboards are really cool as well to see the details there. Now, the requirement, like I say, there are two prerequisite applications that you need to have. First one is GRC policy and compliance, and the other one is the GRC advanced risk. So those two are the prerequisite or dependent plugin that you need to have. A role required to install the application is system admin. So as far as a system admin role, you should be able to install. When you upgrade this application, make sure to upgrade any other installed GRC application to the equivalent release version. And the example regulatory change management version is 15. So it is 15. And this reduction in installation size of the application, they did that one a little bit time before. All right, so it's almost there, 98% complete. We know that it is installing as well the GRC advanced risk as well. All right, so that is the plugin. So you should come to the store app and you look for GRC regulatory change management. Great. So what are your thoughts and comments about the regulatory change? Okay, because this regulatory change are really important. What we're gonna do is this is in this episode we're just gonna end for now, but in the next episode we'll come back and do some internal work on the regulatory change management within the ServiceNow instance. But for now, we're just gonna keep this video in short, and definitely we'll do the demo on the next episode because we already installed our plugin here, and it's gonna take a little bit of time to complete that installation. Once that is complete, we'll do the next episode, and you'll find that one in the description. All right, so until we see each other on the next episode, I want to say thank you so much for staying with us. This is Mohammed Rashid Kamal from the ServiceNow store, and thank you all for joining us. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.